What's up, Herd? Today I'd like to get into some Solend strategies regarding the TRUNK-USDC pool, so let's get on into the tutorial. If you haven't checked it out already, guys, SK Crypto K has already done a great video on some strategies here. The borrow lend functionality on Solend for Trunk has been amazing, so go over there and check that out. I think he's got some great insights, but I wanted to make my own video and discuss some actual calculations on some of these strategies, so let's get on into it. All right, so I've outlined three strategies here. The first is just supply USDC to continue to grow the Solend pool to attract new investors because of the TVL growing. I do highly recommend that if you do hold Trunk to put that in as well, just to grow the TVL of our Trunk Solend pool to make sure that more investors see it. Not financial advice, but this is the least risky of all three of these strategies. If you put in $1,000 worth of USDC right now, the current APY is just 45%. We've seen it much higher, guys, and it is quite variable, which is pretty great for just stable yield. Stable yields are typically less than 20% across the board in crypto. And by the end of the year, your portfolio in Solend would be about $1,458. That's the annual yield plus your initial principal. I think this is a great tool just for getting in and getting some yield on your USDC, guys. A lot of people are doing this along with some of the other strategies in Solend. This is a great way to create a pool of consistent cash flow in order to DCA into Trunk. So if you've got a large stack of USDC, guys, multiply that $1,000 by 4 or 5x, and then take some of that yield and DCA it into Trunk. So this first one, guys, is super simple, not a lot of risk, and gives you a constant flow of USDC to DCA into Trunk. However, it is slow gaining and probably won't keep up if you were to buy some Trunk all by itself. So let's look at the loop trunk strategy. So the loop trunk strategy is probably the most degen of all these. However, the price movement of Trunk could be so much that you are making some serious gains, especially as we have seen the price of Trunk go up 20% in a matter of 24 to 48 hours on occasion. So it's completely possible that we could see multiple X's on Trunk by the end of the year. But in this one, you're definitely exposed to massive APY if the utilization gets any higher, which it has been quite often over the last couple of weeks in Solend. You're fighting against the borrow APY, which is currently at 77%. So in this strategy, we start with $1,000 worth of Trunk that we put into the lending side of Solend, and then we're going to borrow no more than 30% of that. And I've put this in the calculation, guys. It's just an automatic 0.3 multiplier here in order to get 30% of your total Trunk invested. I am going to leave a link in the description below to this spreadsheet that'll make shareable, that you can type in your own numbers here. I would just type in numbers into the green. Go ahead and update your APYs up here, guys, as well, based on the current values, and the price of Trunk is also listed here. And then you can change this Trunk projected price as well to help you navigate this spreadsheet. But we don't recommend going any higher than 30% of loan to value ratio or $300 per $1,000 invested, as it could lead to liquidations if the price of Trunk were to swing violently. So let's digest the rest of the strategy here. If we were to put $1,000 in, we wouldn't want to borrow more than $300. And if the current APY of 77% stayed consistent by the end of the year, you would have to pay back $532 in USDC, and you would likely do that with either profits from Trunk or some other investment that you have elsewhere in the crypto space. The Trunk that you've purchased for this $300 at the current price would be 237 tokens. And if the borrow APY stayed consistent for the rest of the year and you did not change your position, you would need a gain of 224% to pay back your $532 worth of loan and accrued interest. Not financial advice, do your own research, but I've projected that we could be at least at $3 in the next 365 days, which would put the Trunk purchased at a total value of $733, which would give me a profit of $179 on this modest $300 investment. Of course, I'd have the initial investment that I put into Solend as well on the Trunk side, and that would appreciate at the same rate, so I'd be in massive profit if the price was to go to $3. I do think this strategy is the most degen of the three. However, guys, we are in a massive growth period for the price of Trunk, and anything under $1 in my mind is cheap. I think the biggest push that we have to do right now as a herd is to get the price over $1. And once we get into price discovery, guys, above $1, and with a massive bull run upcoming for the crypto space, this strategy is definitely the most bullish on Trunk. Now, last but not least, we have a bit more of an advanced strategy, guys. This one in particular was laid out by BT himself, and SK Crypto K does talk about this in his video as well. However, I've done the math to make sure that you guys understand the risk and rewards here, and it's pretty promising, guys. This one is definitely a little bit less risky than the loop trunk strategy, and definitely more profitable than the supply USDC strategy if you were to play it out, depending on the price of Trunk overall. What you'll find here is the higher the APY in the pools, the better this works out for you at the end of the year, especially as the Trunk price appreciates, guys. So let's get on into this. So if I was to invest $1,000, I've calculated that it would be completely safe to borrow 42% of that in USDC as well. So at the end of the year, you're paying back a USDC loan, and though you're accruing interest on this $420 per 1,000 invested, you're also accruing interest on the initial 1,000 that you deposited. So when it comes down to it, guys, you're making a higher yield on the majority of your funds. And though the borrow APY is quite a bit higher than the lend APY, so as the year goes on, the APY on the lend side is outpacing the APY on the borrow side, which actually gives you a net positive if you were to hold it for a longer amount of time. And believe it or not, guys, the higher the APY, the better off you are in these pools. So this is actually incentivizing both the lenders and the borrowers, guys, in this pool. So not only are you lending here like you are in this first strategy, you're also borrowing, which raises the utilization on this pool, which raises the APY in general. Let me show you a couple of different APYs that we've had consistently throughout the last couple of weeks that actually give you a higher remaining principal at the end of the year here. Based on current APYs, guys, of 45% lend and 77% on the borrow, at the end of the year, your remaining principal is $713, which is a little less than $300 of your initial investment. But you also get to hold this Trunk, guys, and as I raise these APYs, you'll see that it's possible to basically get free Trunk with this strategy. And the best part about this, guys, unlike the looping strategy, you don't have to sell your Trunk in order to pay off your loan. So at the end of a year on this current strategies, based on the current APY, you're going to have a remaining balance of $713 original principal, and you're going to have 331 Trunk tokens. And even if Trunk only went to $1 by the end of the year, guys, you'd still have a total profit of $45 based on your initial investment. But let's look at profit at a couple different variables here. Let's say that Trunk goes to $2. That's $377 in profit on top of your initial investment, guys. If Trunk went to $3, guys, we'd have $709 in total profit, meaning our total invested plus $709, so we'd have $1,709 at the end of the year. If Trunk goes to $5, that's $1,373 by the end of the year. And if Trunk went to $10, guys, you'd have $3,000 in Trunk that you don't have to pay a loan back for. And this is the beauty of this strategy. Because you're gaining on your principal, guys, the entire time, you don't have to use any of your Trunk proceeds to pay off your loan by the end of your strategy. In fact, the longer you stay in this, the better. If you were going to play this out over 18 to 24 months, guys, your principal would actually continue to outpace. And at some point, you'd be able to skim off some of your appreciation on your principal in order to buy more Trunk. Now, I'll make a separate video, guys, on how exactly I would do this. I think now is the best time to get into this strategy, guys, especially as we have cheap Trunk. So let me show you one more thing. I mentioned earlier that the higher the APRs, the better. So let me get into a couple APRs that we have seen in the last couple weeks here. We had a 302% APY on the supply side with a 616% borrow side APY, which sounds insane, but let me show you how these work and how they actually work in your favor. So if I put in 302 on the lend side and 616 on the borrow side, we actually make up the entirety of our principal over the full year if we were to just hold this. So with higher APYs, guys, we actually end up making some more of our principal back, which is fantastic, which brings our total profit on a $10 trunk $300 higher. But even if we have a $3 trunk, guys, that's $300 more independent of the trunk price, guys. So we're actually in a place now where our trunk purchase was essentially free. Because we only borrowed $420 on that initial $1,000, we were able to accumulate more interest on the initial deposit of $1,000 that made it possible essentially to get free trunk at the current price. All right, real quick recap. We have the supply USDC, which is super low risk. And depending on the APY, guys, your portfolio could go up pretty significantly without any exposure to trunk. We have the looped trunk strategy that I think is great for the short term, guys, but you do have to be careful with your loan value, and you're likely to need to sell some of your trunk in order to pay off your loan. And then we have the advanced strategy of the Solend futures, which actually gives you the ability to withdraw the majority of your principal at the end of the year while maintaining your initial trunk purchase. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for more content just like this. Make sure to leave any questions that you might have in the comments below. I'd love to be able to answer them for you. Otherwise, you can jump into our official Telegram at elephant_money. Have a great day and God bless.